I'm here with Travis Clark, Clark Crew Barbecue, who's going to trim us up a brisket.
Yep. What we got a 19.8 pound Snicker Farm Gold. It's a great brisket. Looks like it's got a lot of good marbling, good thick flat. Everything that I like to see. You know, you don't get to select these, they send them to you. It's in the package, it's kind of hard to tell, but I'm looking for all them striations in there. And I mean, to me, what I see there, it looks like a great brisket. So with that, we're going to cut into it. I learned my lesson. I always open it up from the fat cap side. I dug into a flat one time opening one. Oh yeah. That's a big one. Let her drain off. Good to go. All right. All right. First thing I always check, just make sure there's no gouges. Make sure I ain't got to do anything different. That's what I want to see. That's a good brisket. We'll be fine. There's your fat seam that guys got to pay attention to through there. This meat here, a lot of people worry about this. Think that's something. That's nothing. That's going to be on every brisket. That's steamed when it goes in the cabinet. So here we go. First thing I do is I take the decal. This is your point. You got your flat and your point. I take all the fat off of this side. To me, it's a lot easier to do that now. And I'll tell you, you're going to see me pull the knife towards me a lot because that's just how I do it. You probably shouldn't do that.
Only if you like all your fingers.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm bad about it. Not a butcher. These are good briskets, man. That's ever since we started cooking them, it's been a good thing for us. I think Wagyu anymore in competition barbecue has kind of almost become a mainstream. I think if there's one meat that you really need to spend that extra money on, I think, in my opinion, brisket is that meat. I like to get all this fat off. There's so much marbling in it, you don't need it. The other thing I do is we're going to separate this brisket. I always separate. I don't age these. I don't do anything like that. They come 28 days aged. I thaw them out the week before. Get them ready. It takes a few days in the fridge to thaw. I just go ahead and get them ready. When I'm at home, I save all this meat also. Makes a great hamburger. Take a big brisket, whittle it down small. Save all the trimmings. Getting pretty close. We'll do some more trimming on that here in a little bit, but it's getting about where we want it. So the thing we're going to do then, I like to take this big old fat. You're never going to get through this. This is right, you know, it's dividing between your point back here and your flat. There's so much fat in here, you're never going to get through this. It's just solid. I've heard guys say that, you know, this helps render down. I mean, it's such hard fat. Anything that's just hard fat to me is almost unusable. It's just not worth putting in there to cook it. You know, depending on what you're cooking on, maybe you need it. The style of cooking I do is pretty hot, pretty fast. You just don't need it. You can start seeing that line a little more defined where we need to cut. So once I do that, we're going to rock it on right on through here. I like to find that line where it is. Once again, your point, your flat, I want to find that line and I just want to ride it on out. If anything, leave more fat on the flat, less on the point. You just want to kind of run it down through there. Get it on down to the not much fat left on the point. I want to leave it on there. Once I get down through there, I just drop her on out. There's our point. We'll end up trimming that down. It's going to be great. When I do that, you can see what I left on there. Now I just start taking it all off. This is still point meat that we took off, but we don't need it. My goal is probably to end up leaving 1/4 inch at least on the back of this. I don't need all this fat. I want to take a lot of it off because I want to speed this process up. I'm looking to cook this brisket on a long cook. The one I had today took about a little over 5 hours, 5 hours and 10 minutes, which for me is long. Typically, I can get a brisket done 4.5 hours. All right, we're gonna stop there. We're gonna come back to the top side. I like to look at this brisket. I like to look down at the top of it, and I like to visualize. This is about what I'm looking for, right through there. We're gonna trim some of this edge off. We're gonna trim some of this edge off. Then we're just gonna keep going until we get down to what I want. Typically, the blade of that knife across there is my, don't want to go much narrower than that. That's 6 inches. I'm good with that. 7's probably great. You know, I don't like it to be too wide. I like it pre-trim to fit the box. So I'm going to come in there and I'm going to go with the grain. I'm going to take a little off. You're looking at that, and that's what you want to see. I mean, it's a lot of good marbling. This side over here is always a little loose, what I call loose meat. I don't really care for a lot of that. So we're just going to take a lot of that off. We got some great marbling in that. This is a great brisket.
No excuses tomorrow, Travis.
No,
for sure.
No, I'll blame it on
Blame it on this video.
I'll blame it on this video for taking my eye off the ball.
You know the old, if you post your meat on the internet, you know.
Oh yeah, we're doing
yourself.
it even worse. We're taking a video of it. So honestly, that thing is 8 inches wide right now. There's 6 inches. So we're 8 inches wide. So now you got to sit there and you got to figure out which side doesn't feel the best is what I go on. We've got plenty of thickness on both sides. So to me, now I look at it and I don't, that fat seam comes in there, I make that decision. Sometimes that feels loose, so I'll cheat that brisket over. I'll go one way or another. So I want to actually take a little bit of this surface fat off and kind of reveal what's under here before I make that commitment of how much more I want to narrow this brisket. Yeah, this is where you don't want to do it, but for me, this is the easiest way. You know, I take a lot of time going through that, and I just kind of fan it out. Some great marbling there. So I can feel this. I can feel this seam here. To me, that feels a little loose. You know, we already know we got a couple more inches we can deal with. To me, I'm going to take that off. I feel that seam. I don't know, you can't really see it. As that drops in, it's a dish there. I don't want that. You know, I'm going to take that knife up to it. Let's just get rid of it. If I don't think it's going to help me now, let's just take it on off. I like that a lot better. One thing, we're going to take a little off this just to show you a little trick that I learned. Whenever I started learning to cut these for the box, I was having a very hard time when I was cooking briskets, especially a lesser brisket if you don't have a lot of marbling. With it flaking, I used to be able to go in here, take about 1/4 inch, go in about 1/4 inch, and just lay that out. Let that do that. You could sit there and judge how much you wanted it to, if you want it that much or not. You could put butter in that, help hold that edge together. That box, you know, you can trim it to fit the box a lot better, and it won't chip. If you're a guy that's having a lot of problems with that chipping, just make it a little bit of a cut then. You know, then you can finish that off later. You can still go through to do that. To me, that was when I was learning how to cook these. It was very important that I learned that. You know, it was a big deal. I think I'm still learning how to cook them.
Always learning.
I always come up to this end. I know I ain't going to use all that. You know, this is where you show it's a lot smaller in places. You're not going to use that. To me, I just keep taking it down, probably right in there. Look at the marbling in that thing. I mean, that's a great brisket. I mean, that thing's
Incredible.
that's awesome. Probably shouldn't be showing this.
Hand-picked.
Hand-picked.
That'll stir them up.
So, you know, this has a pretty good fat seam. A lot of times, with a great thick brisket, this is your downfall. You end up with a great big fat seam that dips in there. When it cooks, it's going to make a little V. It's going to look like I made a cut in it. You know, to me, that's the price I'll pay to have great marbling. More times than not, that's what you deal with. You can just sit there and feather this whole thing down. You know, me personally, I don't like to go in and cut that. I just let it render out and take my chances with it. That's kind of the downfall of great marbling sometimes. That's okay. And you can also feel that. You know, you can feel if it's too loose. There's times you'll get these where it's down in and it's deeper. You just need to be more careful. You know, take more off of that side and leave it more over there. If you're not comfortable with trimming to get down to box size, leave it wide and square it off. You know, when we 180'd the brisket at the Royal, that thing was as square as you could get. You know, my slices were probably 5 inches wide. I cooked the whole brisket and I jogged through to find the best slices I could when I was learning. I'm not going to go any deeper than that. I'm liking that.
Mm-hmm. Best to stay out of your own way on this one.
Yeah. So, all right. Here's the next thing. It's very important for me. That brisket right there is awesome. I mean, it's ready to cook. I need to finish up the outside edges. I don't worry about a whole lot of this. Like I said, I'm cooking hot and fast. I'd rather that be there to help hold that together while it's cooking. So it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to penetrate. Here's the next tip that I do. This is another thing. Take your scissors. The thing that's going to chip away first when you're chipping a brisket or slicing a brisket, it's wanting to chip away on this edge. That sharp edge, it's a very fine line. I just take my scissors and I like to go in there and just round that edge off. To me, trying to do a pre-shaped brisket to fit the box, we could take a picture of a box and we can add it to this. Show them this brisket what it ended up doing. Unless it was last, and then
we'll see how it does tomorrow.
Then it was the judge.
This one won't be last, I can promise you that.
Okay. I mean, I don't like to go extreme, but I just like to round that edge. You know I'm not going to use this front edge, but I don't want any sharp edges, so I round everything. I go around. You can do this with a knife. To me, I found that scissors are just a nice way to do it and not get real radical.
Yeah, it's a great tip on those scissors. I'm stealing that one.
You gonna steal that?
Yeah.
Boosting it. To me, that's
like
the best way to.
You get some of those Corey Mike surgical scissors.
That's it. Like to thank Fat Boys Barbecue for these scissors. You know, I don't like to do extreme. I used to do a lot more than that. You know, I've done it so much, and now you can do it with a knife. I mean, you can go in and do it. There's a lot of guys that can do that. I think I'm a little better by using scissors to do that. You know, I like to do it everywhere. I don't like any sharp edges. You know, I'm going to have a sharper edge than a lot of people because I'm cooking this so hot and fast. You know, this brisket's going to go on extremely hot. You know, if you see that fat like that you don't like, trim it out. To me, it's a lot easier to do that. But I'm happy with that. I mean, that flat is good to go.
Beautiful.
We can get out the point, finish working on it. So, got a lot of fat left on that still. I like to leave a little fat. Cooking like I do, I think I've done a lot better burn end by leaving some fat on there. I used to take it all off. I actually thought these had so much fat in them I didn't need it. And actually when it breaks down, I need that to turn into almost like an oil to help render render my burn in. When I started leaving a little bit of fat back here, man, my burn ins got a whole lot better, and that's probably what helped win Brisket Team of the Year. The other thing I like to do that we didn't talk about on that flat, my goal is to keep this laying flat. You know, I want it flat, so I'm going to come on that backside, and I'm going to just kind of get a line in there, and we're just going to take some off. Little shaves. I don't like to go a whole lot. You can feel that. There's a lot of fat there still. Very hard. We'll just take a little more of it off. Just shave it out of there. She's laying a whole lot flatter. So this up here is pretty thin. I'm not going to use it. When I go across there, I'm just going to cut them out of there. Get to where I want it. This end over here, you always have a really fatty side. There's no way we're going to render that. So when I'm at home, that's my dog's treat. I just take that part off. You know, it's just your problem most likely, there's almost too much fat. You're not going to render that. But you don't need it. So we're just going to get it on down, leave a little bit there. I like to square mine up. It's getting very close. Just going to kind of level it out and take a little bit of that surface fat off. I don't like to gouge it. I don't like to dig in. Oh yeah, that's a good point. So that there is getting pretty dang close to what we want. When I do my slices, the first thing I do, I drop my knife right here. I take a little bit of this edge off, then I go through and I cut my slices, and I leave this edge and never turning the edges. Right there is the window where my burn ends come from. Pretty much from there to there, everywhere right there. That I should get 12 to 14 great burn ends out of there. I'll test the outside ones, but like I said, we have tons and tons of fat here, but there's a line and it's right about here where that changes. So everything I'm going to go is going to be right through there. You're going to have to push this a lot harder. I'll take this up to probably where it's going to stall, about 211, 212 degrees. I'll let it sit there about 30 minutes, finish them out. It'll be killer. You got to push them longer.
All right, man. Beautiful brisket. Thank you, Travis. Clark
You
Crew
bet.
Barbecue.
You got anything? Let us know.